So now I'm gonna invite the panel to join me on screen here, and I'm gonna ask some of the questions that we're receiving. So I'm gonna, while our team is putting the panel on screen, I'm gonna start asking questions. All right, so the first question that we received, and this is anyone in the panel who would like to respond to it. How can we make sure that all the Black, Indigenous, people of color who are farmers and crafters get in on the opportunity and get the help that they need to get started? That might be a good policy question for Donna.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great question. I don't think we know exactly how the regulations are going to play out, but one of the things that the law does say is that at least the goal is that 50% of the licenses should go to equity applicants. And that's really important. And equity applicants includes not only people of color, it includes women, it includes distressed farmers, it's veterans, it's a fairly broad group. And we hope and expect and will be pushing for regulations and support structures that encourage and promote these individuals and groups as licensees, because if we don't get that, then it's just lip service, because a lot of those individuals have not historically had access to capital and access to the support systems that they need to make sure that they can succeed in business. So setting up these supportive structures is critically important. And the law does earmark some of the tax revenue to help with education and outreach efforts. But I think it's going to take more than that. I think we're going to really need to make sure that the public's voice continues to be heard, so that the regulations reflected, and that the Cannabis Control Board and the Office of Cannabis Management hears this message, that this is what New Yorkers want.
Thank you, Donna. So the next question that I have is, this is from a viewer from Queens who doesn't have access to urban areas to grow, and they're interested in knowing where they can come volunteer upstate to learn more about cannabis business from cultivators.
I can weigh in on that, and probably Amy can too. It's a great question, because one of the things that is going to become critical, especially in a state like New York, is connecting those areas where you actually can grow outside with people who want to learn those techniques if they haven't been exposed to them before, and access to education around that and places to grow. And kind of related to that first question is, we really have to envision new models that connect rural and urban areas, so that there can be an exchange of information, and in a commercial context, the potential to grow outside, educate people who want to go that route about how to do it, and then connect with the commercial entities, small scale retailers in urban areas who want to sell that sun-grown regenerative product. So there's huge opportunities here to do that and include education as a, part of that question was about how to get educated. There's going to be, as we are hopefully envisioning it, a lot of opportunities for that. There are already lots of farms where you can come learn some of the techniques that aren't just specific to cannabis, but will definitely apply as we move into that over the next couple of years. So, and hopefully, well, I know for sure that New York Small Farma will be a part of that. Hopefully connecting people in that way.
I think Brian froze up a little bit there, but I think what he was trying to say was that New York Small Farma, as we move along,
get in touch.
Going to try to help educate people on regenerative practices and farming. So please get in touch with us. Amy, did you want to add anything to the answer to that question?
Well, I think it's important for the industry to take all the different approaches. It's very important for this small farmer and all those communities, like how the organic farm movement works. And also to recognize that there's also a play for New York State in playing in growing this plant for people to have access to medicine, and it's very regulated. So you need quite a sophisticated business model to be able to provide high potency, good extraction, and good brand for people to access this plant. And in that model, you can have a worker co-op where you profit share. So people of all, like our mission statement includes our workers, who our organization is 90 to 95% people of color. And so I think there's many opportunities to do it in awesome different ways. As long as we keep that consciousness and that mission statement that we're talking about, we can influence this together on many different levels.
Thank you. Good point. They're very good points. So this next question is more of a statement, and you guys might understand it better than I, and want to speak to it. But we have a question, we have a statement that says type 2 cultivars are starting to be grown and bred more recently. Type 2 and cultivars that express in more varied terpenes and cannabinoids, such as CBN, CBG, as well as CBD and THC in similar concentrations, much like early breeding stock and land races of the 60s and 70s. We need more of this, as it is more complete medicine than THC or CBD only. Would you guys like to speak to that? I see lots of heads nodding.
I'm not going to hog it, but I would love to talk to whoever gave that question. You want to say something, Andi? It's a huge interest of mine, is working with landrace species here to develop, regionally adapted Northeast strains that are based on some of these that actually stress some of the things that you talked about. But I'll let Andi jump in there on that too, if you want.
And Andi, yeah, just maybe tell people what landrace is.
Okay, landrace is, as I said in my little spiel. Oh, is Andi going to jump in there?
No,
okay,
fine. This is your thing. Do it. You do it.
I'm just so excited about it. Now, landrace means typically when you talk about a landrace species, it's one that comes from a place where it's either grown wild or has been cultivated for a long time. So that, obviously includes the place where it originated, the Hindu Kush, India, Nepal, Tibet, but also all the places over the thousands of years that it has been grown, Africa, more recently in the Americas. So those strains that have been growing there for hundreds of years that have then been developed, as the questioner said, in the 70s, a lot of people got those and then started playing around with the genetics and interbreeding. And that's where we've gotten all the things that are now, Gorilla Glue and cheese and Kim Dog and all of these. All of those are what people have been playing with for the last 40 to 50 years to get to where we are now. But it's important to start working with those again, as the questioner said, to breed away from just the high THC stuff to a plant that's going to address very specific kinds and all of the cannabinoids that they mentioned in the question. Whoever you are, if you would reach out and shoot us an email, it'd be very interesting to chat.
I also find that the genetics are really exciting, and there's so many cannabinoids, and there's a lot going on in genetics, and it's really exciting. And we find that this plant speaks to different people in different ways. So there should be a really open-mindedness about the whole genetics, in the sense that there's so much going to happen in genetics. It's it is like the dawn of a new time, and it's really exciting because the plant can express itself in many, many different ways. And so I just want you to know that genetics is happening. And when you say genetics, it just means the inherent, plant's potential of what it's going to express. So it's really exciting. We just have so many different varieties that have different cannabinoids and terpenes. So it's exciting time for genetics.
And I just want to add to that. You see the excitement on her face, and when Brian talks about it, this only happens with conscious outdoor growers. The alternative, I'm just pushing this again because we've got to all push for it. This is Amy making a choice what to grow. Amy, who's been farming lovingly for 40 years, or Brian. It's not some corporate banker who's telling people indoors, grow the fastest thing that grows the fastest. That's the easiest to grow for our purposes. We don't want anything too complicated. We want a homogenized, cheap strain that's going to make the greatest profit for us. We're not interested in all these other things. And so again, this is super, super important. They're not even comparable in outdoor and an indoor plant. And I hope that's getting through to people.
So there were a couple of questions. I'm going to lump some of them together. People were asking, are you a purist outdoor? What do you feel about greenhouses? What do you feel about starting plants with lights and then moving outdoor?
I can address that as a certifier, if you would like. So a big part of my work is with the Cannabis Conservancy, and we've developed certification standards around that address all of these issues. Even in the regenerative standard that we developed, you are allowed to use some artificial light in the propagation process, but in the starting of, but not after that. And then in our Cannabis Conservancy standards, we have an eco standard, which is a sun-grown standard, but deals with a lot more of the metrics. So you can certainly grow in a greenhouse, or we have certified grows that have a greenhouse, very high-tech greenhouse, and they also grow 2 acres of regeneratives as a part of their business in the Northeast, so they're able to grow year-round. And we've also developed an indoor standard to help people who are growing indoors to dial it in so that if they are going to use that model, they're doing it as efficiently as possible. So me personally, I am attached to getting people to move outdoors as much as possible and grow in the sun. But there are ways to address that. Greenhouses in the Northeast are going to be a very important part of the production scheme, just because we're here and it gets cold and there's less light, and we need it for season. February to November, you got to have hoop houses. So there are ways to extend the season with cannabis in the same way. Just we need a lot more work with it because we haven't been able to do it legally until very recently.
Well,
it's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I still think we should be focused on outdoors. It's a very abundant plant. It's amazing how much one plant can actually provide for any family. I mean, and then you get to tinker with it. You get to dry it, and then you get to make medicines or teas. And so I don't know, it's cyclical. And I love growing outdoors and being a part of a natural cycle. And this plant being in that position to be released to the people again is such a big opportunity. But I don't like to judge anybody around what they do. So if that's the way they have to do it, but personally, I just love it outdoors. So I'm not a big greenhouse person. You can start them inside, but let them be outside, please, as much as possible. They do so much good for the environment. And in the winter, we don't like to heat it in the Northeast. It makes smoke and consumes energy. Try to adapt to a seasonal, in-season vibration, I think is the healthiest way, personally.
And just because this comes up all the time, like, oh my God, if we're growing outdoors in the Northeast, we can't grow year round the way we can indoors. But the truth is, you grow your crop and then you dry it and you cure it. It's going to last you the whole year. First of all, we could get 2 crops, you know, in the Northeast, but even with 1 crop, it's not like tomatoes that are going to go bad. You properly dry it and cure it, and you've got your supply for the year, and then you grow it again. It's just more misinformation that we have to grow it indoors so we can grow it all year.
I just have to say, it's such an important plant by light that it actually matures by light unless it's autoflower. So you actually have varieties that just mature by the light, how much light. So I don't know about growing 2 crops. I know that you can grow varieties outdoors and have them harvest at different times. But in the Northeast, it seems like we don't have a lot of time to do many grows outside, but just to be technical.
Yeah, I was meaning, you know, not for you who have so much farming, but for people who are just sort of paying attention to a smaller amount, you could do light deprivation outside and you could get 2 crops. If you
Oh,
want.
really? Oh, wow, that's innovative. I can't wait to learn about that.
I've done that. It's a lot of work unless you buy one of those automatic systems.
So
Sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
I'm going to sneak a question in. So listening to this and talking about the cyclical and following the rhythm of the plant, what is the response then to people that say that they're breeders and that they have this mother plant that they have to keep under light all year round in order to keep the mother plant going? What's the answer to that?
That's reality.
That's right. But maybe Amy or Brian could talk to the value of seeds as opposed to clones. Right?
Oh yeah, I'd love to say something on seeds. I noticed that growing by a seed and it's sprouting and the whole process of growing by the seed and the difference between growing clones and seeds is very significant. The problem is that you have chances of things. When you have a clone, you're like almost guaranteed to that variety. So if you get really into it, like most of the growers, you know, homegrown growers are very attached to their getting it from the clone because it's female. And if you plant by seed, you have to be very experienced for it not to be male if you're interested in the female flower. So there's a lot of growing information. And so from seed, there's something very special that happens, definitely. And the clone gives you a security because it's a cutting from a female. So you're extending that one plant over and over, but that does require some attentive indoor. It doesn't happen. It's a specific talent. So you have to know where your seeds are too, you know, source your seeds because you could get really disappointed early if you don't know what your genetics are in your seed. And you really do have to tell the difference if you want good smokables of such or good feminine flower. You really do need to be able to know that it's a female. And if it's a male, you have to take it out. So you have to grow a few extra because you're going to cull some and make tea from it when you do. Because there's male and female.
And the female is the smokable.
Yeah, that's Sensimelia. And you can't have a male around it. If there's a male around it, it'll pollinate it. So if you want your own seeds, then that's fair game. You're going to hurt your neighbors around them because once a male plant goes bust in the air, it can go up to 10 miles and it can seed somebody's nice Sensimelia. So we have to be a cooperative bunch and learn and talk and communicate so we can learn to plant and be good growers, even in our backyard, because it actually influences your neighbor's yard. And it's a lot of effort to make a beautiful female flower. And the male flower has to be identified in order for it not to pop and pollinate. And when you pollinate the female flower, it creates seeds. So it's a very delicate balance and a lot of communication there and a lot of education to spin this out correctly so that people can actually enjoy a good Sensimelia. You have to learn how to grow a good Sensimelia. Yeah.
Thank you. So this next question I'm going to offer to Donna because I think it's a policy question. So will a co-op or microbusiness cannabis license allow a small farm to offer sales at farm market or open as a consumption coffee shop, much like a brew pub? Are these details yet to be finalized?
That's a great question. Thank you, Nicole. The way the microbusiness is written right now in the law, you are really fully vertically integrated. You can go from seed all the way to sale. So in fact, it's one of the few exceptions where no locality can tell you where you can sell. It's you and the ROs, the medical folks, the microbusinesses are permitted to sell directly to consumers. As to the consumption, that is something that we push very hard for, and we will continue to push hard for in the regulations. Right now, there's a separate license for on-site consumption, like the coffee shop that the questioner asked about. That said, it's really going to be up to the fleshing out the promulgation of the regulation to see whether or not, let's say I had a micro business, I grew my plants, I can sell them to the public, and I have my 3 acres of land, and I have some picnic tables over there, and people come and consume it. Would it be unlawful for me not to be running a shop, an on-site consumption, but to allow folks on my land to consume whatever they want? You know, they can smoke cigarettes, they can have a picnic, they can smoke cannabis. And that's a question that has not been answered yet. And it is our intent and desire to make sure that the answer is yes, that you should be able to allow folks to come to your micro farm or your micro business and consume the product that they purchase from you. And as to co-ops, they're actually a different license, the way that the law is structured. And so they do not have the vertical integration that micro businesses have. The size of micro business is up in the air. You know, typically we're talking about 2,500 or 5,000 square foot of canopy space. How that gets calculated is up in the air. But so this is kind of the work that I had mentioned earlier that still needs to be done. But you know, it's our intent that any small or micro business should be able to go from seed to sale. And if folks want to come to their little farm, right next door to me, I have a brew farm, a brewery, and they can brew their beer and sell it to the folks who want to buy it, and they can sit there and drink it. And it should be the same for cannabis, and that's what we're going to continue to push for.
Nicole.
So thank you. So I have some bad news. We're coming to the end of our hour. So we're going to there are a lot of really good questions that I am sad that we're not gonna be able to get to, but what I'm going to offer, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we're going to set up a page on the website. We'll put a Ask a Farmer, and we're going to put the answers. We're going to put these questions to our panelists, and we'll get these questions answered on our website. So please come visit New York Small Farmers. But I'm going to ask one last question. And then I'm going to give some closing remarks. But this question, I'm also inserting it because I don't know how to choose from the very good ones left. And the reason I'm asking it is because I want to hear from you guys to tell our audience and our viewers, like, what can they do? Because home grow will eventually be legal in New York, and also as consumers who are out there buying, what is it that an individual can do to contribute to climate change reduction, to contribute to getting this industry in the right direction?
Well, it's more of the same. I mean, you can grow your own and you can do it regeneratively, and hopefully Small Farmer will be able to start teaching people to assist them to do it. And you can work with Small Farmer to impact what's going to happen with the regs, because as we all know, the devil's in the details. And I fully expect what Donna said. I mean, I fully hope that we will fit into the mold that breweries have and be able to have all of the rights that they have. But it was hard to get that this go around. It was enough that we got it recognized as a plant. So that's where we'll be moving. But we need the pressure, right? The pressure from the industry is huge, right? If people are willing to do the work and commit to this last push, it won't be the last one, but the next push to be able to create what I call cannabiseries, what I hope to be a law. You know, like there's a brewery and there's a winery. If you add ERY to the end of it, you get to have the farm gate. You get to have all the things that a small farm business can have. But we need the help. It's just a few of us. So work with us, and we'll also hopefully be teaching you how to grow your own. You can do a huge amount growing regeneratively on your own land. You can reduce your carbon footprint by sucking up that carbon.
And I just want to reiterate what Amy and Brian and Andy have said, because it's so important. You know, people need to vote with their dollars and also make their voice heard. The reason organic produce is so widely available in this country compared to like 40, 50 years ago is because consumers want it. And when consumers make clear that they want healthy, organically grown cannabis, not certified organic, that's a different issue, but then it will be available because folks cater to what consumer demand is. And if we just sit back as a population and say, we'll just take this cannabis, I don't know how many folks here have ever been to a dispensary. You know, I, like many other New Yorkers, have driven over to Massachusetts at least once, and you get good, better, best. And that's your choice. But if you make it clear that you don't want that, you want something, you know, superior and variety and diversity, then that is what we'll see. So our voices really do matter here. So thank you.
Did any of the other panelists want to give any other responses to that before I close us for the evening?
I think everybody has a part to climate change, and you know, like what comes out of our car, the little gas pipe, it's really dangerous. So we all have to make little steps. We can't have everything that we want. What I'm saying is it takes a lot of restraint and change, individual change every day, making decisions not to put so much toothpaste on our toothbrush. It's really simple, but you got to change your consciousness to not consuming so much. We need to all make a difference in that part. That's what I have to say. Agriculture has a big job to do. Every person has a big job to do. This plant, we wanted to influence it and have a great part in this revolution of being conscious that humanity needs to become aware that our impact on our environment has consequences. So thank you.
Thank you. So we wish we could stay on for longer, but the good news is that we're going to continue to have these cannabis consciousness and the environment series with different episodes. So please come to our website, sign up for our newsletter. That's where you're going to hear about where the next series is and what the topic will be. That's where you'll find the answer to these questions. And as you've heard many times, the regulations are coming. That's where you're going to find out what are the issues and regulations and who you need to email and call to get a change. So, and also, please remember that we do operate completely on donations and for the generous support of our supporters out there. So, and one last thing, I do really want to say thank you so much to Tony Peroni and Chad McAvoy. Tony is a board member and Chad is a great, one of our great volunteers at NY Small Farma that have been working behind the scenes to do the technology and make us look good. So thank you very much to them and to all of our panelists for joining us today, and for all of you, happy Earth Day and good evening.
Good evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Ciao.
you.